welcome. Hope you're having a good day. So we're going to kick off the afternoon with another version of Go for Lunch. So let's just get started. So this is Go for Lunch for October 18th, 2022. And it's brought to you by GoFor Technology. I'm Roger Harmon, your host. If you're new here, please type new in the comments. And welcome to Bob. So today we're going to make your technology work for you in the area of podcasts. So we're calling this podcast 102.1. Why 0.1? Well, back in May 4th of 2021, May the 4th be with you, on Go for Lunch number 52, we did podcast 101, and we had some audio issues. And then 2 weeks ago, we did podcast 102, and we had another audio issue. So we're making good on the make good. So sorry for the previous problems. We're going to make it work this time. And welcome to Gretchen. Another reason that I got into podcasts this time was I participated in Leap Into Podcasting, which was a 2-day online seminar at the end of September. So it's been on my mind, you might say. So what is a podcast? Well, a definition here is that a podcast, and just a second here, let me get my screen so I can read this. And we have a little background noise. It's a program made available in digital format that you can download over the internet, or you can stream it through an application or a podcasting service that provides a convenient and integrated way to manage a personal consumption queue to access many podcast sources and playback devices. So in a nutshell, you can download a podcast so you can play it back if you don't have internet. And when you do have internet, then you simply stream it directly from the internet. So how do you access these podcasts? Well, probably the easiest way is to use the Apple Podcast app, which comes with all your Apple devices. But there's also third-party apps such as Overcast and Downcast, Castro, and the podcastmagazine.com is a place where you can find out more about podcasts. So let's look at that. Here we have it, and we're having a little problem loading it. Let's see here. There it is. And welcome, Judy. So here is Podcast Magazine. If you mouse over the categories here in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see that there's all sorts of different categories here: comedy, kids and family, music, news, health and fitness, and more. And then they have featured podcasts here and podcast industry news, what's happening, what's new. And so this is a great resource for finding out more about podcasts. So where can you go to see these podcasts? Well, you can go to Spotify, which we'll demonstrate in a minute. Apple Podcasts, we've already talked about. So you can see these are the two big ones. And from there, it drops down considerably to people watching it on web browsers or listening to it. You can have video podcasts or strictly audio podcasts. Here's Overcast and Apple iTunes, and 10th on this list is Amazon Music. So here's some interesting facts about podcasts. This is from 2019. I couldn't find a nice looking infographic any more recent. So at that time, 51% of the US population had listened to a podcast. And they say 49% are listening at home, 22% in the car. We're going to contest that information in a second. So podcast listeners are loyal, affluent, and educated. And 80% of them listen to all or most of each podcast episode. So they arrived at the 80% by adding 35% of people that listen to the entire episode to 45% of the people that listen to most. And then you have these other people over here. 44% of women are podcast listeners, and 54% or 56% of men. And you can see here by the year how podcasts are growing in popularity. This, I think, is more descriptive of how people listen. 52% while they're driving, 46% while they're traveling, 40% while they're walking, biking, or running, 37% while they're commuting on public transportation, and 32% while they're working out. So I'm in the 32% and 52%. When I'm in the car, I'm listening to a podcast. So let's look at the podcast app from Apple. So be aware that if you're running Mojave as your Mac operating system or earlier, then you're going to find your podcast in iTunes. But if you're on Catalina or later, there's the separate podcast app, and we're going to look at that right now. So here's the podcast app. We'll scroll up to the top. So up here are the ones that I have subscribed to. And we'll move this over here a little bit. And you can barely see a little see all right here. So if I click on that, then this is all the ones that I'm subscribed to on Apple. Not necessarily the ones that I listen to every day on Overcast. So in order to play a podcast, you would just click, for example, this one says resume, and there's a little play button right here. So you would just click on play, and for some reason I'm not able to play right now. It could be because of my limited bandwidth. So we're going to try to get this to stop. Stop. Okay, so we're going to quit podcasts here. There we go. Okay. So there's also the Apple Podcast app on your iOS device. So let's go ahead and look at that. Fire up the old iPhone here. And so we're going to swipe down from the center to get to search. And you can see podcast is already here because I searched for it recently. So very similar to the Mac app. So these are the ones, again, that I subscribe to. And then down below here, they think that based on what I have subscribed to or follow, then I might want to listen to these, and some of these I already follow on Overcast. And then here's popular shows, so you can see what's the most popular. Be one of the cool kids. And again, we would just hit play the latest episode, or if we want to go to a different episode, we'd scroll down here, and so you can see ratings. And of course, NPR has some of the most popular podcasts. So then you have categories here: society and culture, more to discover, and again, based on things that I have followed, they're making suggestions. Here's more technology related ones, which makes sense. Here's one of the most popular ones is Serial from the New York Times. Here's one from NBC, Dateline. So you can see here that there's all sorts of variety here. So let's go back to our home screen and let's go to Overcast. So in the third row, third column, the orange icon with the little radio tower, that's Overcast. Let's go to the main menu here. So I can set up a queue, I can look at all episodes, I can set up a playlist like I did with this one called Mac Centric. So this shows me all my Mac related playlists or podcasts. And then these are the recent ones. You can see here under in the upper right hand corner of Mac Observer that shows that it's been, I've played part of that. So these are the ones that I actually subscribe to and listen to each day on Overcast, the Overcast app. Now the Overcast app is only on iOS and iPadOS. It's not on the Mac. So let's look at Mac OS Ken. So I can look at unplayed, so I haven't heard today's, so that's unplayed. But if I can click on all, that shows me all the ones, and the check marks show that I played them. And if I go to, well, let's just go to this one from yesterday. So now you can see I've got a play button here in the center, a little circle with a triangle, and there it goes. I don't think you can hear that. Well, point out some features here. So you have in the center, you have the runtime. So this is a total of 14 minutes. Then you have a 30-second rewind button, the pause button in the center, and then a 60-second fast forward button. And then if you click on this little 3 horizontal lines in the lower left-hand corner, you have some more adjustments here. In the center, I'm listening to this at 1.75 times the regular speed. So that's something that your brain will adjust to, so you can listen to podcasts in less time than they were recorded. Then a feature of Overcast is called Smart Speed, and it is a feature that takes out silences when people pause. And then they also have Voice Boost, which remasters the audio so you get better audio quality. And then if you click on the little eye in the circle in the lower right, it gives you the notes for that particular podcast. And then if we scroll down here a little bit, they put in a link here, and depending on the podcast, there may be more links. But this is just a synopsis of what was covered in today's podcast. And then, of course, we have the pause button here in the center. So we're going to pause that. And talk about another way to listen to podcasts, and that's with Spotify. So let's look at Spotify. So here's Spotify. And the way I got here was normally when you go to Spotify.com, you would get music. But I went to search, typed in pod, here in the search field in the upper left, and I got podcasts and shows. So here are all the different podcasts, and since I'm in an undisclosed location, these are all in Spanish, but you would get yours in English. So again, you would just hit the play button and you would be able to listen to the podcast. It shows you the date and the length. As you can see, some podcasts are, here's one for hour and 7 minutes, and here's one for 1 minute and 25 seconds. So they can vary. So that's another way to listen to podcasts. And of course, Spotify does have a iOS app as well, so you could do it on the iPhone. So, questions. And while you're formulating any questions, a little reminder to share the GoFor Gazette, which comes to you every Monday about 7 a.m. with anybody you know that uses Apple devices, and like and subscribe to this YouTube video. So let's see what questions we may have. There we go. So I hope you found this useful and informative. And if you haven't listened to podcasts before, then this is your invitation to give it a try. And there's podcasts on all sorts of different topics, almost anything you can think of. So gardening is one that I've used as an example. And anything that you're interested in, somebody is probably doing a podcast. And podcasts are fairly easy to do. So if you have a passion about something, you too could be a podcaster. So if you'd like to explore creating podcasts, I could certainly help you with that. Well, thank you, Bob. Hope you have a good day. So we're going to wrap this up, and we'll see you next Tuesday at high noon for Go for Lunch. If you have any questions between now and then, you can email me or call me on that information that's coming up right now. Take care.